Hey, welcome to Hooper's Radar. Today we are going to be discussing the biggest question for every Eastern Conference NBA team heading into next season. With that said, let's get into it. The first team we are going to be starting with is the Boston Celtics, and the question I have for them is, can Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown as a duo be consistent come playoff time? They've never both been consistent in the playoffs at the same time, and have had games where they just both look terrible. There's never been a moment yet for them where they are both playing out their best in the playoffs. There really is no other question for this team considering they have what they need to win a championship. It all just comes down to the consistency of their duo to lead this team to a championship. Next team is the Miami Heat, and my question for them is, can they continue to overachieve and make these deep playoff runs while still getting big performances from Jimmy Butler despite lacking some offensive help? Obviously, Damian Lillard could change this question, but the Heat at this moment don't have him yet and have lost Gabe Vincent and Max Strus in free agency. For the Philadelphia 76ers, can Joel Embiid stay healthy in the playoffs, and can Nick Nurse's coaching help take this team to the next level? We all know Embiid isn't ever fully healthy for the playoffs, and as a result, underperforms for the most part. Doc Rivers, who's a questionable coach, is now gone, and has been replaced with someone who I believe can be a more impactful coach in Nick Nurse. We obviously don't know if James Harden is returning, but if he does, we already know what we're getting out of him. A guy who's pretty good in the regular season, but underperforms in the playoffs, so there's no question about that. For the New York Knicks, can they get Jalen Brunson some offensive help for the playoffs? During the regular season, Julius Randle is awesome and arguably the best player on the Knicks, but when the playoffs come, he falls off a cliff, and so does RJ Barrett. It just seems like it was only Jalen Brunson out there fighting for the Knicks these playoffs. He could really use a true second option star that will take some of the offensive load off of him in the playoffs. Julius Randle and RJ Barrett just aren't cutting it. For the Milwaukee Bucks, how can their new coach Adrian Griffin help impact this team better than what Budenholzer did in the past? We all know Mike Budenholzer got most of the blame after the Bucks got eliminated in the first round, getting fired as a result. Obviously, Giannis being injured during the series had a lot to do with why the Bucks lost, but Budenholzer's schemes and lack of adjustment surely didn't help at all, and was also a reason why they got eliminated in 5 games. For the Chicago Bulls, can someone outside of DeRozan, LaVine, or Vucevic emerge as a key player to help this team and help them get back into playoff contention? Obviously, Patrick Williams could be the ideal guy as he has all the tools to do it on both ends of the floor, but only time will tell. Dalen Terry and Kobe White are some interesting guys, but Patrick Williams has the most potential out of the three to finally break out. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, can Evan Mobley continue to develop into a better offensive player, and are Georges Niang and Max Strus going to be the key contributor this team needs to hopefully make a deeper playoff run this upcoming season? The Cavaliers have had their struggles these playoffs against the Knicks, leaving much more to be desired from the team as a whole, and hopefully with the continuous development of Evan Mobley, along with their 2 new free agency acquisitions, they will be much better in these next playoffs. For the Toronto Raptors, it comes down to Scottie Barnes. With the absence of Fred VanVleet, can Scottie Barnes be the lead point guard and break out as a player this season? We all know that Pascal Siakam is going to continue to be awesome, and so is OG Anunoby, but at this point, that isn't enough for the Raptors to make the playoffs. Scottie Barnes' emergence is the future of this Raptors team, along with any chance of making the playoffs. For the Atlanta Hawks, who are very mid this season, can Quinn Snyder, with a full season as the coach, bring the Hawks out of mediocrity? This was a team that was incredibly mid this year, often relying on Trae Young and DeJounte Murray to take turns creating offense. This led to a record of 41-41, the most mid record of the season. Hopefully, Quinn Snyder can help integrate some better offensive schemes into this team that aren't DeJounte and Trae playing your turn basketball. I'm also looking for Quinn to bring some impactful defensive schemes similar to the ones he had on the Jazz. For the Brooklyn Nets, how far can Mikal Bridges take this team as a number 1 option, and will we finally see Cam Thomas get consistent playtime? Mikal Bridges emerged as an all-star caliber player when he arrived on the Nets last season and proved he could be a solid number 1 option on a playoff team. But because they got swept by the 76ers, I'm really curious how far this Nets team can go with Mikal being their best player. As far as Cam Thomas, whenever he gets an opportunity that involves consistent minutes, he explodes for 30 or 40-point games and proves why he should be playing more. I would definitely like to see him have a bigger role this season. For the Detroit Pistons, can Cade Cunningham stay healthy for a full season and show us how good this team is when they have him available? Obviously, Asar Thompson will be an impactful player for this Pistons team, whose fit will be exciting to see, but Cade Cunningham is the player that will ultimately move the needle for this team as the lead ball handler and franchise player. We are yet to see him healthy for a competent amount of games since his rookie year, and him being healthy this upcoming season alongside all the Pistons' young talent could be what elevates his team into play-in contention. The Washington Wizards are next, and I'm not going to put much pressure on them. So my biggest question is, can Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma, and Tyus Jones make this a fun play-in team to watch? Jordan Poole being a Wizard is definitely going to be fun to watch, as he'll get the green light to do what he wants offensively, and hopefully he'll have a bounce back season. Kyle Kuzma and Tyus Jones are also going to be fun to watch alongside Poole, and will hopefully contribute to some winning at least. I would love to see this team make somewhat of a push for the play-in tournament, but at worst, they'll be entertaining to watch. Next is the Indiana Pacers, who I'm very high on this season, and my question to them is, with all the young talent and solid depth they've acquired over the last couple years, will they finally go into a win-now mode and make a push for the playoffs this upcoming season? Seeing Tyrese Halliburton have a breakout season as an all-star and have this team in the playoff race before he got injured is very encouraging. With their recent acquisitions of Bruce Brown, Jarris Walker, and Obi Toppin, it seems like the Pacers are going to have their eyes set on making the playoffs this season. They filled out their team with a mix of vets and young talent that provide depth. The playoffs is the only goal that makes sense for this team. Last but not least, we got the Orlando Magic, and my question to them is, who is the future point guard of this team? The Magic have been notorious over the last few years for having and continuing to draft more guards. It just seems like they don't know who to choose as their franchise point guard. They signed Markelle Fultz not too long ago to a contract, who I assume will be the starting point guard as long as he stays healthy, but then they kind of ignore that they have Markelle, deciding to draft Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, Anthony Black, and Chet Howard, Black and Howard being the most recent draft picks. But it's very odd that they have 5 guards on this roster, which signals to me that they aren't truly bought on yet who their franchise point guard or shooting guard for the future is. So they've just been continuously drafting guards, hoping to find their franchise star guard. For the last Eastern Conference team, we have the Charlotte Hornets, and my question to them is, can LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller lead them to a play-in tournament appearance? LaMelo Ball has already shown a lot of individual success as a player with an all-star selection, but I would like to finally see him have some team success and lead this team to the play-in tournament. The recent lottery pick Brandon Miller has shown a lot of promise and could be the missing piece of this team that will help them be more competitive. Only time will tell, but seeing LaMelo and Brandon lead this team to the play-in tournament will be the start of the Hornets finally going in the right direction. Well, that's my biggest question for every Eastern Conference NBA team. Stay tuned for part 2 on the Western Conference soon. Thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. For more content like this, please make sure to like and subscribe to stay on the radar for all things basketball.